Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday at noon, and then I post it up to Facebook and other social media, Waka Waka Doodah days. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other therapist for that matter. Boom, shakalaka done. I'd like to thank my sponsor, BetterHelp, BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. They're an online therapy company. They are international, so they're really easy to get to. Just go to betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez, fill out a few questions, and they will place you with a licensed professional master's level or PhD level therapist, either in your state or that can do international. And there's over 40,000 therapists doing BetterHelp. So thank you, betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez. Okay, so much to get through. So much has happened this week. So as things fall down. Let's see. Okay. So hi, everybody. Okay. Today's Easter. Happy Easter. I totally forgot it was Easter today, and I'm doing one on religiosity and cults. And isn't that cool? Interesting timing. Don't believe in coincidence. Anyway. So current events. John and I have to talk about this. John and I had a very interesting encounter yesterday with someone I would probably say is disordered. People would call them a Karen. So we were out at lunch with my great nephew and his girlfriend, and we were having a great time. And the table next to us was having a great time. And it's a college town. And so we were at a college kind of hangout place. And so this woman comes in with her husband, and she just looked like she was ready to kill people. I mean, you could just tell. It's like, because I was facing the doorway. So she comes in and she just, looks over to the table next to us. And it was a bunch of Asian college students, and they were speaking in their native language. And this woman just looks at them and glares, and then she sits down. And I was like, whatever, lady, you have the day you deserve. You know what I'm saying? So, we were talking and we were laughing and, not being loud, but we were talking and laughing, and the group next to us was talking and laughing, and it was loud because it was a college kind of hangout. It was filled with young people, and we were all talking and laughing. And this woman, because every once in a while, I kind of looked up to see what was going on, because, it was obvious. She was making it very, very obvious she was unhappy. Now, somebody had asked me, because I posted this on Facebook, somebody had asked me, it's like, well, what if she was neurodivergent? No, this woman was not neurodivergent. It was clear she was looking for a fight, and she was looking to be outraged, and she was looking to be angry, which is why I'm saying more than likely disordered. So, anyway, so she was sitting there and she pointed over to us at one point, and the husband turned around, but then the husband saw John and Eli. So it wasn't just me sitting there and the girlfriend. It was like John and Eli were there, and the husband turns back and shakes his head like, don't do it kind of thing. And I'm like, yes, smart move. Don't do it. Not because John and Eli would be dangerous. I would. So then she the table next to us, the guy was laughing at something, and he hit his hand on the table because he was laughing so hard. And she stood up and she was like, you need to be quiet. This is a restaurant, that kind of thing to them. And so they all got up and left. They were like, go screw yourself, lady, because they were pretty much done anyway. So they all got up and left. And I don't know if they said anything to her. I really hope they did. And then I turned to Eli across the table and I said, well, there's a Karen, loud enough so she could probably hear it. And it's like, don't come at me, lady, because if you come at me, I'm going to tell you to sit the bleep down and shut the bleep up. So yeah, it was obvious she was looking for a fight. So that was really interesting. I've never seen a Karen in action recently, So basically, don't be intimidated by these people. And it was clear she was pissed because people were happy. That was her main anger point, is that she was unhappy, she was miserable, and she wanted to make everybody around her uncomfortable. And we didn't allow it. So after after I said, wow, that's a Karen, we just went right back to our conversation and started laughing and talking. And eventually, like 2 minutes later, she and her husband got up and left. And I was like, have the day you deserve, So I am not surprised that there are people out there that do that kind of thing and think they're entitled to tell people to not have a good time. Now, if it was inappropriate, if like, for example, they were, really super loud and banging on the tables all the time and, being inappropriate in some way, shape, or form, then I would say, okay, guys, tone it down just a bit. But, no, this woman wanted them to stop it cold. And she wanted us to stop it cold. And it's like, you know what, sweetheart? Restaurants are to socialize. This is where people come together to literally break bread and talk and have a good time. That is what this is all about. So anyway, it was a Karen in action. And it was just so obvious. And it wasn't that she was neurodivergent. She was pissed. She was angry that there was a group of young people having a really good time. And here's the funny thing. And John and I even talked about this. We watched her and you could see her debating which table she was going to be successful with. So when her husband turned around to glare at us and noticed the two guys sitting there and he shook his head at her, it was like, don't do it, thinking that John and Eli would be the ones to say something. And I'm just like, oh, John and Eli are not the ones you need to worry about. So yeah, it's like really amazing to watch her try to piss on somebody's campfire. And that's what narcissists do, is if somebody's having a good time, they will be sure to try to piss on the campfire. I've told this story a million times. I have had people come up to me in restaurants and tell me that I'm laughing too loud when other people were laughing loud too. But it's like they thought they could single me out. And it's like, oh, really? Well, watch this. I'm not going to put up with that crap. So, and neither should you. Neither should you. It's like if a narcissist comes up to you in a restaurant or if a narcissist comes up to you anywhere and tries to piss on your campfire, don't let them. Laugh at them. The devil literally runs from laughter because that biatch got up and left within 2 minutes and she had not finished her food. So yeah, it's like, don't put up with it. Don't put up with it. Because if we put up with it, if we put up with that kind of behavior, if we put up with the I'm right, everything needs to be my way, I need peace and quiet, well, then don't go to a college hangout, sweetheart. Logic, critical thinking, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, if somebody is being a pisser on a campfire, don't put up with it. Don't put up with it because silence is an agreement that it's okay, which is why I said, wow, she's a Karen. Because it's like, I'm going to call it out. You come at my table, sweetheart, it's going to be worse. So, yeah, it just, now, if this was a funeral, okay, yeah, I could understand it. If we were at some sort of like serious, somber thing, yeah, sure. But no, this was lunch in a college town at a college restaurant with a bunch of young people having a really good time. So, yeah, don't allow Karens, aka narcissists, to piss on your campfire. Just don't put up with it. Don't put up with it. Absolutely not. Anyway, that's part of my current events. So the other thing I wanted to talk about too is that cults, okay? Cults, religiosity, and communal narcissists, okay? So I was reading up on the massacre in Moscow, and that Putin had warning. He had warning, but you know what he was more interested in doing, because it was right around the election there? He was more interested in stifling any dissenters to his rule than he was in outside terrorists. And he's decided that the LGBTQ community was a threat to him. So he was arresting LGBTQ community leaders and ignoring the intel from the US telling them, hey, jerk, there's going to be an attack. You might want to do something. I mean, the US gave him everything. And what did he say? Oh, you're trying to blackmail me. Paranoid much? So narcissists want to get rid of communal narcissists, want to get rid of any narcissist, want to get rid of any dissension. They cannot stand it if you don't agree with them. Hence that woman being so angry that everybody else was really happy and she was a miserable biatch. Anyway, the point being is that they can't stand dissension. They can't stand another point of view. And so they will squash anybody who doesn't agree with them. There is no civil discourse with somebody like that, because in their mind, it's black and white thinking. You got to understand that when you're dealing with somebody who is a narcissist, their thinking is insanely, and I do mean insane, black and white, like all, nothing, good, bad, my way, the highway. That's literally how they think. So the reason I wanted to talk about all of this is because recently there's been a couple of things in the news dealing with cults and or communal narcissists and or influencers that are saying and doing the wrong thing. Also, I wanted to talk about the difference between shame and guilt. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about cults first. I want to get this going because this is important. So this is Understanding Cults, the Basics, and this is on Psychology Today by Stephen A. Hassan, PhD. All right. To help others, it's important to understand mind control and undue influence. No one joins a cult. They are recruited by systematic social influence processes. Destructive individuals and cults use deception and undue influence to make people dependent and obedient. Not all influence is bad, obviously, but there is a difference between due and undue influence. So due influence would be like your parents teaching you right from wrong. Okay, that's a due influence. That's okay. That's, they're showing you a moral compass. Undue influence is gaslighting, lying, rewriting history, punishment, isolation, all of that. Cult leaders are typically malignant narcissists and want people to be obedient to them. Ever had an experience with a cult or controlling relationship? Because remember, narcissists are all a cult of one, all of them. They are all their own individual little cult leader because you have to agree with them. You have to buy into their stuff. You have to do what they want or you're going to be punished. Have you ever had a friend or member caught up in a black and white, all or nothing conspiracy cult, multi-level marketing, religious, or political group? To help them or yourself, you will need to know how the mind works and how people can be programmed into destructive or authoritarian cults. Not all are destructive, some are benign. There are specific strategies, patterns, and behaviors used by cultic groups to recruit new members and to manipulate and control them. The first step in keeping you and your loved ones safe is learning more about what a cult is, how they work, and the lasting series of after effects of being involved with one. Vulnerability and recruitment. No one joins a cult voluntarily. They are recruited into it. So with us, it's the love bombing. You're perfect. You're the most amazing person I've ever met. Oh, you're the one I want. Oh, you're what I've been looking for my whole life. That's the recruiting into it. There's a lack of informed consent. Everyone has vulnerabilities. So with narcissists on a one-on-one, they play on that want or need for love. Possible situational vulnerabilities include illness, the death of a loved one, a breakup of an important relationship, loss of a job, moving to another city, state, or country. Individual vulnerabilities may include high suggestibility, so easily hypnotized, easily suggested to, strong ability for concentration, vivid imagination, possibly learning disorders, or being on the spectrum, because people on the spectrum don't always have the ability to discern, incoming, what's the word? All I can hear is resident alien in my head. This is some bull. So they can't discern necessarily the manipulation. And we can't sometimes discern the manipulation. So excessive use of hypnosis, meditation, or other activities can induce altered states of consciousness. These in and of themselves are not bad. But if they are used to increase susceptibility, being recruited into a cult, there is a lack of critical thinking. So you've got to really use your critical thinking. You've got to have good media literacy and good supportive network, which can help a person stay grounded. Other risks include possible learning and communication disorders, drug and alcohol problems, trauma, unresolved sexual issues, and phobias, fear of heights, drowning, sharks, aliens, terrorists, crime, etc. Severe economic disruption, isolation, lack of touch, social, political polarization, increased time online, which is never a good thing, especially because tomorrow is April Fool's Day. Do not believe everything you're going to see or hear on the internet because I hate April Fool's Day. So yeah. Internet addiction and recruitment into extreme conspiracy theories and cults/scams. If you're in a vulnerable state, you may be One of the many you may fall for one of the many recruit strategies. Some take place in person, where you meet the person at work through a friend or from a community, or you may find yourself recruited online from social media posts, website, TikTok videos, discussion forums, dating apps, movies, or video games. What exactly is a cult? So a cult is destructive individuals. They use deception and undue influence to make people dependent and obedient. Oftentimes, they also make the person do things against their moral code of ethics. Prove to me your loyalty. Go do this. A group should not be considered a cult merely because of their unorthodox beliefs. They are typically authoritarian, headed by a person or group of people with near complete control of followers. Cult influence is designed to disrupt a person's authentic identity and replace it with a new identity. How many of us, when we have come out of abusive relationships, go, I don't know who I am. I don't even know what I like. Do I like mac and cheese? What do I like for dinner? I don't know what I like. Seriously, because the abuser has constantly, no, you think the way I do. No, you believe the way I do. No, you like what I like. You dislike what I dislike, that kind of thing. There are many types of cults: political, religious, self-help, large group awareness trainings, mini cults, family or one-on-one, multi-level marketing, conspiracy theory, commercial, labor/sex trafficking. Influence and control. So influence is everywhere. It's not always bad, but if they're using it for evil, then it is. Parenting is an influence. Relationships, family, friends, community, media, advertising, films and social media, education, politics, business, religion, psychotherapy. But influence can be enormously positive and helpful, as well as detrimental. It is important to recognize the difference between due and undue influence. Due influence involves informed consent, your choice, the right to question, listening to your inner voice, freedom to interact with anyone you want, free will, and the freedom to leave. However, undue influence is deceptive, manipulative. You're not allowed to question. Your inner voice is suppressed, and you're isolated from your family and your friends. You're told you may not see them. They don't like them. You can't see them. This goes for one-on-one, and this goes for group cults. Fear and coercion and enslavement, essentially. Undue influence can present as subtle. For example, you are given the illusion of an informed choice and control. More and more, I am seeing clients who have been abused by these use of hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming, especially by unqualified life coaches. Now, I'm going to say this. In this next article, I'm going to talk about the life coach that was the influencer, about the cult person that abused her kids, that was the influencer online. She was a life coach. Not all life coaches are bad. I know many that are very, very good. So, but if somebody is a narcissist and they can't get their master's degree in psychology, guess what they're going to go for? They're going to go for life coaching. So if you choose to use a life coach, you've got to interview them like nobody's business. You've got to make sure that who you're dealing with is not a narcissist, is there to help you, is not there to control or program you or anything else. So that is something to take into consideration. Undue influence can alternately be extreme and overt, such as kidnapping and torture, but all undue influence is destructive. It is also known as mind control and thought reform. Cult psychology. Leaders want people to be obedient and never question. They look for ways to break people. They want people who will work hard and long hours for little or no pay. Authoritarian religious cults often use members for labor trafficking. When the mind is controlled, the victim may appear happy and willing to suffer for the profits of benefits of the leader or the group. So this is where shame comes in. So shame is used a great deal by these religious cults. And so the difference between shame and guilt, okay, and I want to hit on this because this is important. So they use shame because shame is a condemnation of who you are, okay? You're wrong. You're bad. You're a sinner. You're evil. You guns, right? Okay, and that's inflicting shame into those minds, okay? Guilt is our Jiminy Cricket. Guilt is, this behavior I just did was not good. I need to make amends. I need to make an apology, and I need to make sure it never happens again. So we feel bad when we do things wrong and we know they're wrong, But then our next step out of that guilt is to go make amends. Go do the next right thing. Okay. With shame, there is no next right thing. It's you're bad, you're wrong, you're evil, you're this, give me all your money, and I'll absolve you. Nope, wrong. Incorrect response. That's not how it works. So cults, and that includes cults of one-on-one with a narcissist, use shame as a tool to manipulate, to control, to suppress, to make you bad and wrong so that you feel like doo-doo and that you'll do whatever they are telling you so that you could get absolution. That ain't how it works. So there is a big difference between shame and guilt. Guilt, like I said, is just letting us know we've done something wrong. Our behavior was not good. Let me make amends. Let me apologize, and let me make sure it never happens again. Shame is the person going, you as a person, ecumenically, are wrong, bad, evil. There's no redemption. You're going to hell, blah, blah, blah. And you can't come back from that, according to them, because it suits their purposes. So if anybody shames you, oh my God, run. Do not walk to the nearest exit. Okay. For members of a cult, happiness comes from a good performance within the cult, and along with elitist thinking. They believe that they are alone, have the truth, or the only answer, and there is no other way, or it's the best way of life. Strict obedience is required, and they are manipulated by fear, shame, and maybe stuck with no way out. They undue influence creates a new identity to suppress the old identity. So you're led to believe that who you were before the cult was bad, wrong, incorrect, needs to be gotten rid of. You need to push that to the side, and you need to become what I want you, Pygmalion. You need to become what I want you to become, not who you really are. That's what undue influence is. Different types of manipulation. The creation of a new identity is done step by step. Formal indoctrination sessions or informally by members, videos, games, movies, publications, social digital media. Behavior modification techniques are employed, such as rewards and punishment, and control of environment, isolation or restricting food or access to others. And then the new identity is reinforced and the old one is suppressed. Lasting effects, and then I'm going to go into a little bit of an explanation about these two that I want to talk about. Prolonged and intense coercive persuasion can cause identity disturbance. So commonly, there are many additional after effects. Extreme identity confusion. Like I said, how many of us come out of this going, who am I? I don't know who I am anymore. This person told me I was this, but I feel like I was this before. And how do I get back to that or become who I really am? What's going on? Panic and anxiety attacks. Hello. Yep. Holla. Yep. I think we've all had that. Depression. Hello. Psychosomatic symptoms, headaches, backaches, asthma, skin problems, autoimmune diseases, anger, guilt, shame, decision-making dependency. So when it comes to a decision, we are stuck. We're like, oh my God, no, I can't make this decision. What if I make the wrong decision? Because I'll be punished. Fear and phobias, sleep disorders, nightmares, eating disorders, fear of intimacy and commitment, distrust of others. This is all talking about being with a narcissist. Grieving the loss of family and friends. Yes. Delusions and paranoia, loss of meaning or purpose, and PTSD. Yay. So basically, you've got to recognize these signs and symptoms, and it's really important to know what a cult is. Undue influence is always harmful, and it always is, you're bad, you're wrong, you need to change, you're not the right person, you need to mold yourself like me. You need to think the way I do. What the frick? There's no free will. There's no ability to leave. There's no thinking for yourself. There's no nothing. It's like you're isolated from family. Oftentimes, I find that when somebody gets involved in a real honest-to-God cult, the cult members suppress the identity and give them a new name. Oh, you are no longer Sheila. You are now Catherine. That is your name. That is Catherine of whatever. They give them a completely different name because it's brainwashing. So, yeah. So this is cult. So religiosity uses these techniques. Okay. Let's see. Let me go back to Okay, so the reason I'm talking about this is because there were these two women that were apparently on YouTube that were influencers. Influencers. One was a life coach, and they were giving this parental advice, and meanwhile, they were abusing the living crap out of the kids that they had. So one of them was, let me see if I can find the name. Ruby Frank, and the other person was Hildebrandt, Jody Hildebrandt. And so they were doing this YouTube thing where they were giving parental advice, and they were abusing their kids, and it was religious based. Okay, so Hildebrandt was the life coach, and I put that in bunny ears because again, there's a person giving a bad name to life coaching, and the influence was these kids are evil, and you need to punish them, and you need to starve them, and you need to exorcise them, and you need to do this, that, and the other thing. So the kids were getting starved, beaten, verbal abuse like nobody's business, all sorts of nasty stuff. And so both of them just recently pleaded guilty to how many charges? 6 charges? 6 children. So she pleaded guilty to 4 charges of child abuse and other things. Hildebrandt, let's see, 4 counts of child abuse. So both of them pleaded guilty. But the only reason they got caught is because one of the sons ran to a neighbor's house, and the neighbor took one look at the kid and called the police. I mean, it just... And she was convinced she was doing it for the right reasons. I'm saving their soul. Explain to me how beating a little tiny kid and starving them is saving their soul. It just, yeah. And this woman, Hildebrandt, was completely encouraging her to do this. Spare the rod, spoil the child, blah, 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 blah. So religiosity. So people get hung up, well, abusers know that religion is a minefield for a lot of trauma survivors, okay? And they know, if they're evil enough, that they can use religion, whatever religion, doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be Christian. It could be Buddhist. It could be Hindu. It could be anything for evil, okay? So basically what you have to watch out for in any cult is it evil? Is it against nature? Is it harming someone? There's your clue. Is it telling me I can't go talk to my family because they don't like this cult person, or they don't like this leader, or whatever? Listen, it's the same thing with Putin. If Putin was really secure in what he was doing, he wouldn't feel the need to suppress the dissent, because he'd know he was doing the right thing and it would be fine. Okay? But he knows he's not doing the right thing, and he knows the dissent is right. And so he needs to shut them up, because how dare they not agree with me? Do you see where I'm going with that, guys? And that's what narcissists do. Narcissists want every single person who does not agree with them to be shut down, i.e. DED, dead. They want them dead. They do, because they're disagreeing with them, because they know they're wrong. On some level, they know they're wrong. And they can't handle the fact that somebody's pointing out that they're wrong, So... Okay, so these two women used basically Christianity, unfortunately, as the excuse to torture, starve, beat, harm these children. These children are going to be in therapy for the rest of their lives, seriously, because they're little. They're not that old. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is religiosity, anything that makes you feel ashamed, is not working on the side of good. Okay, seriously. Now, like I said, there's a difference between shame and guilt. Guilt, again, is just, oh, I've done wrong. This behavior was wrong. Notice there's no, I'm a horrible person, I'm awful, I deserve to be punished, blah, blah, blah. That's shame. Okay. Guilt is just, ooh, I hurt somebody's feelings. Oh, I need to make amends. I need to apologize. And then I need to make sure this never happens again. And then you do. Okay. Shame, again, is used to make the person feel less than. Hello, that's what narcissists have to do, whether they're cult leaders, communal narcissists. So let's clear up the communal narcissist thing. Communal narcissists are leaders of some sort, they're influencers of some sort. So, how do I explain this? Communal, it's communal because they need a community, they need a fan base, they need people to adore them and tell them how fabulous they are and follow their every word and hang on their everything. And but the things they are saying are hurtful and harmful and shame based. Does that make sense? So they're using shame to manipulate, control, and keep down other people. One up, one down. It's all one up, one down with a narcissist. They have to be one up. Everybody else has to be one down. So it's all about the shame. It's all about, well, if you just follow what I'm saying, I'll save you. You're saved. I'll save you. I'll do this. You'll but they don't. They don't. So communal narcissists pretend to be some sort of spiritual leader. Now, listen, you're going to find them in everything. You're going to find them in life coaches, unfortunately. You're going to find them in therapists. You're going to find them in yoga stuff. You're going to find them in anywhere where more than two people gather. You're going to see somebody try to be a guru or a communal narcissist or a cult leader or whatever. And how you can tell the difference is, how do you feel when you're around them? Now, in the beginning, all of the cults, all of them, from time immemorial, they do the love bombing. They do the love bombing. We love you. You come to our thing. We love you. We love you. We love you. Does that sound familiar? That's what the cult of one does. Love you, love you, love you. You're fabulous. You'll be accepted. You'll this, that, and the other thing. And then you get into it. And then the devalue and discard starts. Okay. You have to give up your name. You have to give up your identity. You can't be with your family anymore. You can't see your friends anymore. You can't, you have to do what we want you to do. Well, you need to work these incredibly long hours so that you'll get the praise from the cult leader, blah, 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 blah. It's the same thing, whether it is an individual narcissist or whether it is, a group of people being controlled by a narcissist. It's the same behavior. It is. And anyone who sets them up as, I'm the only one that has the answers, I don't. There's lots of people out there that have the answers on psychology. Seriously. It's like I always tell people, it's like, go check out other channels. Go check out. Now, Kim Sayed said she's getting out of the narcissism stuff, but she's good. I like what she says. She's awesome. There's Susanna Quintana. There's Marsha Diane. There's Shatha, my trainer. There's a whole bunch of people out there that can help you get healthy. There's not one way to do it. Dog-faced banana patch. Oh, by the way, go watch the Steve Martin biography. It's amazing. It's really, my father, his father, and Will Wheaton's father should probably get on the same bowling team. Yeah, don't get me started. Anyway, also Will Wheaton's book, Still Just a Geek, really good. Strongly recommend it. But the point being is they all act the same. And that was the thing that hit me, is that it doesn't matter if it's one narcissist abusing one person. They do have slightly different ways of doing it if they're overt or covert or communal, but pretty much it boils down to all the same behavior. Okay. And so anyone who's like, I am I hate this. I am a guru. I am the only one that has the answers. Run. Do not walk to the nearest exit. They're selling you a bill of goods. They're going to sell you the Brooklyn Bridge. Give me all your money and I will give you the answer. No, it just, anyway. So watch out for gurus. Watch out for somebody who claims to have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I'm still discovering stuff. Seriously, there's not a week that goes by that I don't go, oh, damn, didn't know that before. Wow, that's interesting. Do you see where I'm going with that? Gurus know everything about everything all the time. Nobody knows everything about everything all the time. They don't. So watch out for those types. Watch out for the ones who sucker you in with laundry's done. Sucker you in with the love bombing, but then you start having to give up chunks of who you are. Okay, that's never a good thing. Ever, ever, ever. So communal narcissists need a huge harem or fan base or a bunch of people, sycophants, telling them how great they are. Tell me how great I am, do everything for me, blah, 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 blah. They often don't have jobs. They often live off the other cult members. Narcissists do that on individual people too. It's like you got to watch out for this stuff. So that was a really good article that was on Psychology Today. Strongly encourage you to read it. All right. So that is the whole cult member thing. So what can you do? Basically, it's when people in the cult realize that they're in a cult, the cult leader makes it incredibly difficult to get out. Sound familiar? So you have no money now. All of your money has been given to the cult leader. All of your money has been given to the narcissist. You have no support system. They've made sure that you cannot contact your family. They've made sure that you're isolated or that you've moved 2,000 miles away from your family and your friends. So it's really important, if you're thinking about leaving a communal narcissist, a cult, somebody who's religious, who's using religion, and this is what drives me crazy. My dad did this. My dad would use, he raised us in hardcore fundamentalism, okay, which is why I like Buddhism. So, but I've even seen some people try to use Buddhism to manipulate people. So if you're evil, you'll take good and try to use it. So what they'll do is they'll hide behind some religion's skirts. And so my dad's case, I always said he hid behind Jesus's skirt to make justifications for beating the living crap out of us. And they do. They use religion and they take it out of context, guys, which is also another good reason to kind of read up on all of this stuff, so that when somebody starts trying to use biblical passages, you can go, funny, let's talk about that. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, using religion to excuse their abuse, basically, or to justify what they're doing. Okay. So to get out of it, you need support. You got to have family and friends. You got to have money. You do. You may need to, leaving a narcissist or a cult or whatever, you may need to run to a shelter and do it that way. You may need to ask for an identity change, because I've seen cult members be stalked by other cult members trying to bring them back into the fold, so to speak. And let's be clear, they're dangerous. Cult leaders, okay, narcissists in general, are dangerous because they have to be right. It's their way or the highway. And if you ever read up on Jim Jones, it ends in disaster. Or Waco, Texas, or, oh Lord, what was the one that was following the comet where they all cut off their genitals and then killed themselves? You know what I'm talking about. People's Heaven's Gate. So, it ends horribly because the cult leader knows that they're in the wrong. And the way to make sure that they're never found out is to have their followers kill themselves, which is really what narcissists want, because that's the ultimate form of control. So, religiosity, if somebody uses religion to manipulate, control, hurt, or harm, run. Do not walk to the nearest exit. If somebody is telling you to give up your family and friends and change your name and give up your identity and become this other person, run. Do not walk to the nearest exit. If somebody is saying that they are the way and the light and they're the only ones that have got the answer, or they're the only ones that have the path to the end spot, no, they're lying. Run. Do not walk to the nearest exit. So anyway, that's cults. That's communal narcissists. That's narcissists in a nutshell. So there is that. Okay, let's take some questions. So anyway, with Jody Hildebrandt and Ruby Frank, it was a cult of two, and they were taking it out on the most vulnerable population, which would be children, because children don't have the cognitive ability to understand they're being lied to, manipulated, controlled, abused, tortured by the person or persons that were supposed to protect them. So before you start following an influencer, before you start following a therapist, before you start following a life coach, before you start following basically anybody, check them out 10 Ways to Sunday. What are they really saying? Listen to the behaviors and the words. The words can be pretty, but the behaviors can be heinous. So actions always speak louder than words. Watch the actions, not the words. Narcissists, especially communal narcissists, very charismatic. If you ever watched Jim Jones, he was very charismatic, you know, and he could charm anybody. Okay. So watch the behaviors, watch their little temper tantrums. Oftentimes, when they don't get their way, oh boy, that mask slips, even if it's just for a second, and you can see the real them behind the mask. So, anyway, I wanted to bring that up because I just thought it was so heinous that these two abused kids. And what I see cult leaders doing in all of these different cults that I just talked about is they take the most vulnerable, the most desperate, the most lonely, the most abused, the most traumatized, the most whatever, and they know they're vulnerable and they play on it. And that's what abusers do. That's what narcissists do. That's what, somebody like Putin would do. Do you see where I'm doing, what I'm going there with that? They take the most vulnerable and they abuse the crap out of them. They don't dare take on somebody that could possibly take them out. Kind of like that woman in the restaurant when her husband turned around and saw there were two big guys sitting at the table and he told her not to do it. Funny. Wasn't the guys she needed to be worried about. You know what I'm saying? It's like they take on people that they think they can bully. They take on people that they think are vulnerable, that they can either bully, manipulate, control, harm, hurt, etc. So that is a cult in a nutshell. So let's get to the questions. Where are they? There they are. Okay, could you please talk a little about cult-like workplaces with mandatory admiration of the boss? So listen, narcissists are going to be drawn to any and all positions of power. Okay. The AP right now is doing a huge investigative journalism thing on police brutality. And they've isolated 1,000 instances over the last 10 years, which is way too many, of people that were murdered by the police using non-lethal tactics. And in cases where the police were called in on mental health issues, and because the person was schizophrenic and could not follow directions, they ended up suffocating him, tasing him to death, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So narcissists and psychopaths, dark triads, psychopath, narcissism, control freak, are drawn to positions of power. That's their cocaña. That's what they get off on. So they'll be CEOs, they'll be bosses, they'll be managers, they'll be politicians, they'll be therapists, they'll be life coaches, they'll be preachers, they'll be anyone who is in police, judges, lawyers, anyone who is in a position of power. Those particular professions seem to have a disproportionate amount of narcissists, psychopaths, control freaks in them because they are a position of power and they get off on that. So I'm not surprised here that there's, a corporate culture of admire the boss. I feel like we have to walk into a cult every Monday when I go to work. Any resistance strategies you can suggest until things change? The narcissist boss is leaving in a few months. Well, basically, gray rock, if it's a job you have to stay in, and if you can fly under the radar, stay out of it. Just oh yeah, you just gray rock. You don't have to believe it. You can pretend to be cheering them on when you're not. And basically narcissists won't notice unless you're sitting there actively resisting them. Does that make sense? So gray rock is kind of like inactively resisting them. And it doesn't have to be like negative. Okay. Like, so when I usually do the, no emotion, in that case, it can be, and of course they'll interpret that as, oh, they agree with me 100%. Because that's what narcissists do. They assume, they make an ass out of you and me. Remember, assume, you spell it out. They assume that everyone actually agrees with them. And they just cannot conceive that anyone would think that they're wrong. Let them think that you think that they're right. You don't need to say or do anything. Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah. Doesn't mean you're really agreeing with them, but they'll take it as such. Fly under the radar. But I'll tell you what, though, If this narcissistic boss came in, who hired him? So did they hire another one that's just like this guy? If that's the case, you may want to look for another job, because it's no fun going into an office where you're like, oh my God, I have to, you know, kiss this guy's hind end in order to get a paycheck. That's not cool. That isn't the way it should be, but narcissists treat it like that. So yeah, just to be aware. It's like corporate culture comes from the top down. So if you've got a malignant narcissist at the top, they're going to keep hiring other malignant narcissists because they want everyone to be made in their image, because they think they're God. So just be aware that, okay, yeah, you're getting another one, another boss, but same old boss, same as the new boss, same as the old boss, nothing changes. If that's the case, look for a different job. Why does the narcissist in my life like to criticize everything I read/watch, telling me that every person in my life is a narcissist, but not them? Okay, so since there has been more education on narcissism, I have noticed that the real abusers are telling people, "Oh, you're the narcissist," or "They're the narcissist," or projection. Hello, narcissists project. Absolutely, they project. And so they're desperate to not be found out. They criticize everything we say, do, and watch because they can't stand that we're doing something that they don't understand, or they don't like, or they can't do, or whatever. So if you watch the Steve Martin documentary, it broke my heart. And it made me so mad because his dad, my dad, and Will Wheaton's dad were all cut out of the same cloth, unfortunately. And nothing Steve Martin did was good enough. Nothing. And I'm sitting here going, the guy is a comedic genius. Hello. Funny. I love Only Murders in the Building. Martin Short and Steve Martin together is my happy place. I had a crush on Martin Short forever. But anyway, but Steve Martin was brilliant. And no matter what he did, his dad would look at him and go, yeah, well, you're no Charlie Chaplin. Your son is filling up stadiums. Are you out of your ever-loving mind? So the guy was always hypercritical, hyper nasty, hyper mean. Turns out he wanted to be an actor, didn't make it. See where I'm going with that? Couldn't cut it. Son did better than him. Well, he's not going to let him have it. He's going to take it away from him. I'll show you. You're not good enough. You know what I want to say to people like that? Go pound sand. That's what I want to tell them. Because how dare they? How freaking dare they? And Will Wheaton's dad did the same thing to him. Never good enough, never agreed that he was a good actor, never, nothing. And recently, some a bully a-hole on a Star Trek thing went after Will Wheaton and was like, oh, he should have stayed and he should have done this and he should have done that. And how dare he leave the franchise and blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting here reading that going, sit down, kind of like the woman at the restaurant, sit down and shut the bleep up. You know nothing about this man's life. And if you'd read his blogs or read his books, you would know why he left. You son of a, don't get me started. So, I mean, totally went after him. And for the things that Will Wheaton in the past has been the most vulnerable for. We all come out of abusive relationships with low self-esteem. And this son of a bitch went for the jugular. Seriously. And thank God a whole bunch of people went after him. And I'm like, the guy that wrote the nastygram. And I'm like, good. Because Will Wheaton does not deserve that. So, but bullies, they're absolute bullies, and they don't bother to find out about a person's life before they start attacking them. And that's what narcissists do. And when they feel that they know what the vulnerability is or the jugular is, boy, they go for it. And the good news is that Will Wheaton has done enough work on himself that he was able to be like, yeah, no, not playing. It doesn't affect me. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, they're bullies. They're absolute bullies. And honestly, I was really thrilled to see how many people stood up for Will Wheaton in the posts underneath and basically shut that asshole down. Sorry. Anyway, so there is that. Okay. So yeah, they can't stand it when we do something that they are not able to. They can't stand it when we're enjoying something that they don't enjoy. Okay, so this person is telling you that everyone else in your life is a narcissist, but not them. Meanwhile, they think they are healthier and know better than everyone else, which is the clear sign of a narcissist. So essentially, narcissists think they know it all. They do. And they will be gladly telling you that they know it all. And that is your clearest sign that you're dealing with a narcissist, because a healthy person goes, you know what? I don't know it all. I'm still learning. This is school. I'm still learning. I personally like recess best, but I'm still learning. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's what they do. All right, guys, I'm going to cut it short because it is Easter. I totally forgot about that. So I am going to be in Houston, Texas, April 13th, Pensacola, Florida, April 20th, Charleston, South Carolina, May 4th, Raleigh, North Carolina, May 11th, Richmond, Virginia, June 22nd, Washington, D.C., July 20th, York, oh goodness, York, Pennsylvania, August 5th, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, August 10th, and Nashville, Tennessee, August 17th. And I want to give my apologies to Ohio because I thought I would have time, but I don't. So I will go see Ohio next spring. I promise. I promise. I promise. I promise. So, but just let me know what city is best to go do that in. So anyway, if you want to see the dates, they're on chriscodinas.com/public_appearances, or you can just go to chriscodinas.com and click on appearances. And that gives you all the dates. So there is that. Next week, I want to go back to talking about self-esteem. I think this is a huge thing to talk about because, again, it is the thing that is going to help us get through life. How to deal with naysayers, how to deal with people that want to piss on your campfire, how to confront Karens, how to, it's basically about getting out of our heads and getting fearless is really what it is. So I think I'm going to title it Getting Fearless. So I want you all to be fearless. Don't you put up with those people. They don't, nope. Not today, Satan. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about self-esteem, fearlessness, confronting people, which I know everybody out there is like, oh my God, I hate confrontation. Sometimes you got to do it though, guys. Really, sometimes you got to do it. So, all right, my loves, you guys go have a great Easter, have a great week, and I will talk to you next Sunday. All right, sweethearts, talk to you later. Bye.